Three, two, one, all that good stuff. We're going live. Oh, we already are live. Oh, hello, good people. Hi, it's Jason with Green Country Agroforestry. Wednesday night here. Once again, time for another live stream. And you may see a little distortion over here on the side, and you might hear a sound. And that is because it is toasty out here in Oklahoma tonight. It is. Hang on. That was supposed to be muted. I don't know why it was kicking on right there. So it is toasty out here in Oklahoma tonight. mute my own YouTube there. It was picking up the live stream. So I've got the AC going, and now I can hear what it sounds like. Okay, it's not too bad. Sitting in the air conditioning, sipping coffee, wiping my mouth with a napkin. Vicky says, many blessings. We got the watercress. We got it in the water. It did not all survive, but we did get enough that it's surviving here. We got enough that it's surviving. And Kimber is tuned in because I told her earlier that I was going to explain why I did not make a trip to the post office today to deliver these things, which are all canisters containing the moth repellent, which I told her I would explain tonight why I have not taken these to the post office. Couldn't take them on Monday because Monday was a holiday. Post office is closed. I may as well get into explaining why I didn't take them to the post office now while we're here, right? I didn't take them on Monday because the post office was closed. So Memorial Day, Monday, I decided to go out, walk around the garden, have a look at things. Decided, okay, let's have a look at the squash. And I noticed that the Cucurbita moschata, all of the Seminole pumpkin and the butternut squash, those were just perfectly fine. I broke one of the vines whenever I was handling. I think it was a pumpkin. I'm not sure. I broke one of the vines. Fortunately, I planted 2 squash in that spot, so it's fine. I could break one of the vines off. It didn't care. But I noticed that on the yellow squash, the summer squash, some of the tender squash stems, not the central stalk, but some of the individual stems that the individual leaves are on, had suffered some damage, dehydrated and fallen over. I was like, oh, wow. I just treated these things to make sure vine borers wouldn't get to them. They're already suffering damage. And I looked at them and I realized that the stems coming up away from the central vine, or the central stalk on a summer squash, these are just too tender to have any of this particular formula on them. It'll cause them to burn, and it'll kill them off. Now, where I applied it to the vine, to the central vine, it did not burn the central vine, but I'm keeping an eye on it for just a little bit longer. I don't think I'm going to send these out to let anybody else experiment with it at all this year. We may start a limited experimentation with other people next year, but I'm going to keep an eye on it myself and not ship this out to somebody else, because right now I don't know if it's going to have a long-term bad effect upon the summer squash or not. So I caught that one. Okay. There needs to be some caution exercise with this thing if you're going to be applying it to summer squash. Don't get any on the individual stems. You can put it on the central vine. Don't put any on the stems right now. That's what we're thinking. Perry says a swinging curtain in the wind just calls to a cat. Yeah, but if I don't have the AC on, I'm gonna bake because it's just too hot out. So I've moved the green screen over a little bit so that it'll blow the cool air this away, and tilted the laptop sideways. So actually you can't see, but I'm not oriented the ordinary direction today. I'm off at a little bit of an angle so we can accommodate having some air on me, because it's just too hot. It's just too hot out. So Mary is with us. Carolyn is with us. So incidentally, Carolyn and Amy, I'm not shipping these out because I want to just keep an eye on them. Keep an eye on what it does to the squash here a little bit longer before I hand it to somebody else. That way, you're not going to take it, put it on your plants, kill your plants, and go, dang it, Jason gave me this stuff that killed my plants. Just to make sure that doesn't happen, since I noticed a problem with some of the summer squash, I decided to hold on to it, and I'm not shipping it. Anyway, Ken's with us, Sassafras with us, Moonsprout's with us. Vicky, of course, is with us. Some of it did survive. It didn't all make it, but we do have it established in that pool now. So it's going. It's a lot smaller than it was whenever you shipped it. But the what's left is healthy and surviving. Da, 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 da. Amber saying, hope Ezra, the big kitty, the 17-pound behemoth, doesn't get the zoomies. He jumped up on the desk last night and discovered a sticky trap because we have sticky traps up to catch the little critters. He's not supposed to be on the desk. It's caught him. So he was running around with it this morning on him. Today's topic. So rambled on for about 5 minutes. Today's topic is on diversity. Diversity in the garden specifically, not diversity in other contexts. That would be political. You don't want to hear me get political. All right, so diversity in the garden means you're going to have a continual harvest. I chose this picture for the backdrop because it does show a certain amount of diversity between two different species of plants, the dahlias and the daylilies there, which I have one right here. This is not exactly one of the same ones that's in that picture there. This is one of the open-faced dahlias, the ones that I'm growing more for the tuber than the flower. This is just one of the flowers. That the plant that made this has got another, I don't know, half dozen or so blooms on it right now. And it's one of about 4 different versions of this dahlia that are producing blooms right now. We have that one right up there, the Mingus Alex, the big red dinner plate dahlia. It's blooming, and I've already tasted one of those flowers. I'm not going to be eating these a lot this year, and the reason I'm not going to eat them a lot this year is because this is the very first year I've grown these. The tubers came from Holland. They use an awful lot of pesticide there, and I just don't want to be secondhand ingesting pesticide, so I'm not going to eat them this year. But I'll grow and propagate them, and then maybe next year we'll start eating. But what I've observed from the dahlia, which is in bloom right now, and I'm going to destroy this pretty little flower here and pull off a petal. Not grab the calyx, grab the petal, otherwise it won't come off. I have one petal here, velvety, smooth, nice, colorful. You put this in your salad, or you can add this to soup and other things because this does not have a sweet flavor. Maybe a tiny little bit sweet. But the petals of this one are just pretty ordinary without much flavor to it. Now, if I come in here and grab here where the inside part is, I might have a different flavor. So, right, here's the inside part. A little tiny bit sweet. But other than that, pretty unremarkable. The dinner plate dahlia, that one that I've tasted, has a flavor that reminds me of dill. I mean, it tastes like dill, like a little bit of dill with a touch of citrus in it. So the thing I've discovered is we have flowers that are blooming off of the same general type of plant, but it's different. They're all dahlias, right? But they're putting on the blooms at different times. And since they're putting on the blooms at different times, I can enjoy them through an extended season. Sometimes I have this variety that I can munch on, which doesn't have much of a flavor of any kind. A slight bit of sweetness, a little crunchiness. Not bad. As a lettuce substitute, it's going to take a lot of them, but you could definitely make a salad with this stuff. All right. That dinner plate dahlia, the red one right above my head, which is the only one of the dinner plates that's currently in bloom, that has a savory flavor like a dill, and that's blooming right now. But the other 2 dinner plate dahlias, they're not blooming. They're going to bloom later on in the year, right? Same thing with the other, I think they have 4 other different varieties of this open-faced dahlia, and they're not blooming right now. They'll be blooming at a different time. So having different varieties within the same plant gives you different times that that your crops are being produced. take, for example, daylilies. I'm going to go ahead and turn off this. I'm going to turn off this thing behind me real quick because you can't see what I'm going to show you. All right. Okay, you see that? See that blowing back up? Okay, so these are the unopened flower pods of our daylilies. This is the Stella de Oro, and they're some of the first ones to start producing this time of year. I'll show you whenever I turn the green screen back on. The Masaka special variety that we just planted this past year, I've only got 2 of them that are growing right now. They're also producing flower pods this time of year. So they're going to be an early blooming variety. But these, whenever they're unopened, they taste a little bit like a green bean. And you can eat the entire flower. So I have those coming on right now. Oh, I'm growing some peas. This isn't a perennial, but it grows really easy. Even though I'm a black thumb, I can throw peas down and get peas, right? So we've got peas. Yes, you're going to sit here and watch me eat a few things. So there's all those peas. And those are delicious, right? There's more of those in the cup here. The strawberries are almost gone. I think I have like 2 strawberries I picked yesterday. No strawberries today. So those are giving out. The mulberries are starting to go away too. But as the mulberries are going away, you notice I do have other things that have arrived. Dahlias are now in bloom. The daylily pods are now going to be opening very shortly, and you can stuff yourself on those. But we have these little guys. This is the goumi fruit, goumi berries. And right now, this particular time of the year, they're coming ripe. And they're incredibly sweet and delicious and yummy and good. All right. Let me switch my screen back on. And put this other little screen back up here behind me. So, fruits come ripe at different times. And I may have to pull this in so you can see it because there we go. You just have to make do without my air conditioning. Okay. Let me get my little cup out of the way here. These goumi berries. If you picked a goumi and it's very, very tart and not very sweet, you picked it too early. You got to wait until they start turning soft and dropping off of the tree. And at that point, they're very, very sweet. I'm thinking about dehydrating them, turning them into something like a raisin. I can see that. Grinding them up along with maybe some pecan or hazelnut or other nut meat like that, and combining them into a fruit and nut bar, like a trail mix bar or something like that. That would be really good, like a pemmican. Yeah, I could see that. Very, very tasty. Of course, we have all different kinds of fruits. They don't come on all at the same time. For example, look, this is it's black because you can't see that. This is a pear that I'm holding in my hand. It's blacked out because of the green screen. But these pears right now, they're not ripe, but they'll be ripe here in a while, towards the end of the season. I went ahead and wrote up goumi late May through July. So right now, end of May, last day of May is today, May 31st. They're ripe. And if we had more of them this year, I might see harvesting them all the way into July. But I just picked all we had. Strawberries. This is for Oklahoma, incidentally, not for everywhere. Your local times that your fruits are going to come ripe are going to vary. Here in Oklahoma, strawberries, April through June. Usually not much beyond June. And April is kind of a special case. If you have ever-bearing strawberries like I do, then I would start seeing strawberries around April. And here at the end of May, they've knocked off. The ever-bearing strawberries have knocked off. They'll probably start putting on another flush again at some other point in the future, not too far from now. And if I fertilize them and water them in really well, I can almost guarantee I'm going to see more strawberries later on. But a lot of your commercially grown strawberries in this particular area, they're June bearing and they harvest them in June. And they've got a whole bunch of strawberries all at once. Of course, the way I prefer to do things is not harvest a whole bunch of one thing all at once. I want to have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. A whole bunch of different things, lots of diversity. So I have fruits that come ripe at different times. So I always have something that's coming ripe. Maybe it's, a pretty little edible flower right now that I can use for a salad green. Here in another couple of weeks, I'm going to have those Stella de Oros opening up, and that's better than Butter Crunch lettuce ever was. That's another salad green. I'm still, let me reach over here. Boy, I'm still thinning these guys out, but this is, you can't see it, can you? Hang on. One of the disadvantages of using a green screen, I tell you what. Let me turn the screen off again to show you. This is a daikon radish that we've thinned. This is an immature daikon radish. It's the entire salad by itself. The greens are edible too. You can chop them up, put them in stir fry, use them for your salad. They are a little bit tough, so I don't know if I want to use them in salad, but chopped, yeah, you can put them in a chopped salad. Stir fry, definitely. Then you've got your radish. This is gonna be the size of my arm by the time they're fully grown, but they spread out and they cover so much space that you do have to thin them a little bit. But that's okay. You thin one radish, that's the entire meal. Of course, it wouldn't be the entire meal in actuality because you need other things to go with it, like, seasonings or something. Let's see, what do I have for seasoning over here to the side? I pulled this just before we got started. It's not going to fit all in the same frame. Here, let me turn it sideways. There we go. So this is an Egyptian walking onion. This is just one out of a cluster. We have hundreds of these. So I just pulled up one to kind of give you an idea of what they look like this time of year. Of course, all of the greens are edible. This is all onion, right? It's 100% edible. Chop it up, cook it. It actually does have a little bit of a bulb. I know I keep on saying it. It's about the size of my thumb. It's not really the size of my thumb. There's my thumb. There's the onion. It's a little bit bigger than my thumb. It's about the size of my thumb. But here's the top sets there at the top of it. And all I have to do about this time of year, incidentally, is I can take the top sets off of this onion and allow it to continue to grow. So if I allowed it to stay out there. But as it is now, this is going in soups and salads and everything else that you can use onion in. Like I said, we have hundreds. I can pull one of these every day and never notice that we've lost any. But we take all these top sets, and you can see the bulbils there. You could eat those if you want to. I mean, they're onions. You could eat those. They're tiny onions, very potent, very strong onion flavor. But we could also take that and put it down and lightly cover it with soil. Those will take root, and each one of these is going to turn into another onion plant. There's, I think, four bulbs there. You'll notice that it doesn't end because the end of this one has even more tiny little bulbs. And up here is actually an example of allium flowering. So somebody says that allium proliferum doesn't flower. It does if it has the right circumstances to allow it to actually go to flower. So that's flower, and we could produce actual seed to start these guys from seed if we felt the need to ever do that. But vegetative propagation is so simple and so easy with these things. They get so big and they're so hardy and hard to kill that it's hard to complain about. Allium proliferum, of course, we're harvesting those pretty much all the time. There's 2 months out of the year that you can't harvest from your allium proliferums. Do I have anything else to show off right now? I think that's all the show and tells I brought with me. Okay, let's turn the screen back on and talk about fruits coming ripe at different times, because this is where your advantage to having a diverse garden comes into play. So you can notice, taking a look at these dates here from April in the case of strawberries, where we have our early strawberries, all the way down through October with our fall gold raspberries. Those are going to be done finishing up around October or so. Apples, if you're growing apples, those are going to finish up around October. Although I don't grow apples, it's around September or so. August to September is whenever we get our pears, and they're done a little bit earlier than people with apples have them. But we're on lowland, and lowland is tough on apples. The apples don't really like lowland that much. But you can see 7 months during which we're getting harvest windows for various fruits and berries, and this is not even a full list. This is just what I was able to fit on this screen. And I was like, okay, I think one screen's good enough. I can show you That's a spread of 7 months there. And I was just going down the list and going, when's this one come ripe? When's that one come ripe? When's that one come ripe? When's that one come ripe? When's that? I'm looking around. I didn't include everything that we've got by any stretch of the. I mean, I didn't even put pears on here. By any stretch of the mention, I didn't put everything that we've got. But everything that we've got is in this category of. I have mulberry trees that will produce mulberries, and when they're producing for about a week or so every day from every bush, I get a handful of mulberries. And right now, it's I can manage to accommodate eating all of them myself. I can. I really can if I work at it. I put my mind to it. I can do it. But before awfully long, it's going to be more mulberries than I can eat in all actuality. Which means I guess I have to share them with people because I don't really know what else I'm going to do with them. Because constantly it's going to be something that's coming into season that's going to be something I can eat. That's my meal for the day, everything. Um, Never imagined when I was a child that when I was an adult, I would wind up eating flowers and going, wow, flowers are a wonderful thing. Especially whenever these are flowers that are perennials, they grow from tubers and you can just harvest them as they appear. And they're tasty, they're delicious, they're nutritious. Wow. Who would have thunk it? Certainly not me whenever I was young growing up. I always thought when I was young growing up that if you were going to garden, it was going to look like the factory farm. The factory farm model where you have X number of acres and you plant it all in the same thing. It's all corn. It's all green beans. It's all watermelon. It's all squash. It's all whatever. And then you come out there with the truck or the machine whenever it's time to harvest, you harvest it all. So you plant it all at once. You harvest it all at once. That way you can manage the cost of the inputs. You're exchanging space in footage and square footage and acreage for the convenience of being able to get that big harvest with minimal amount of input. With proper machinery, you can have one person feeding 200 to 300 people, depending upon what you're growing. But growing in your home garden can't be that way. Can you imagine? You grow nothing but tomatoes. Tomatoes are wonderful. I love tomatoes. I have numerous tomato plants growing. But if I devoted most of my space to growing tomatoes, I could certainly get all the tomatoes I would ever eat for the entire year. And I'd be dehydrating them. I'd be pasting them. I'd be stewing them and canning the stewed tomatoes, mixing them with cayenne peppers and onions and okra, of course, because that's just a staple. You spoon that over rice and you're good to go. I would be spending a lot of time processing and storing and preserving tomatoes. And then that's my space. That's my garden space. That's what I spend all my effort on. What else am I going to eat for the rest of the year? I don't know. Well, I got tomatoes. Horrible way to go. So mix things up. Have some tomatoes. Tomatoes work well in some areas so you can layer the tomatoes in with other things. I've got tomatoes growing up every relatively small understory tree, basically. Not everyone. Some of them I have birdhouse courts growing up into. There is one spot that I think one of the passion flower seeds that we harvested from Turkey Mountain may have germinated, and I might actually have a native passion flower vine growing. And if it is growing, oh goody, I hope I don't accidentally tear it out, because at this stage it looks an awful lot like a morning glory vine. And I'm trying to get rid of those. In any case, back to the list. Always have different things coming in. Always, always, always. So the pears aren't ripe right now. Okay. The chestnuts aren't ripe right now. The hazelnuts aren't ripe right now. The plums aren't ripe. The cherries aren't ripe. But all of this stuff is coming. And right now, I'm getting fresh flowers and other stuff. And obviously, lots of onions and greens and good things to eat from the garden. And apparently, as I'm discovering, the dahlia flowers have different flavors. And this is just got my head spinning because, wow, okay. I've got that big dinner plate dahlia. I'm gonna switch over to that other picture, the one that has the picture of the big dinner plate dahlia on it. And I don't know if this is all the dinner plate dahlias, if it's if it's all the way across the board there, or if it's just this red one here, because the red one's the first one that put on blooms. But now I know it has a distinctive flavor that's different from this one over here. So what if they're all different? Oh my. Oh no. We have so much bindweed out here. It's not even funny. I guess it's bindweed. It's this little tiny vining ground cover makes a tiny little almost nothing flower whenever it does flower. No fruit, no storage root. It just grows up and grabs things and strangles them. So we've been pulling that out, but we've had it for forever. Yeah, it's old house, small AC. The one that goes to this other window over here actually requires the extension cord that I'm using to run a light. So, in order to actually have illumination over here, we had to give up one of the air conditioner units. Oh no! Wouldn't that be so nice to be able to walk under? There's the fruit. You just pick, kind of like the grapevine, right? The grape arbor, where you have the grapes that are over, but the fruit hangs down. And the dream is you can just reach up and pick the fruit, but no, it's all on the outside. Darn. But you've got the blackberry arbor, which is infinitely cool all by itself. Mary says she was just watching Gail's Southern Living. What? She was live earlier. Is she still going? Wow, she's still going. Hello, hello. I'm playing in the living room widescreen or widescreen with solar and mom's. How nice. I'm on a widescreen. Does it look good? Does it look good in the widescreen? Can you see my hands on the widescreen? Huh? 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 Can you see them? Can you see them? I can't see them. Can you see them? Okay, I'm easily amused. Oh, going back to our discovery. If you kill the vines, the borers can't get it. Right. Okay, so it doesn't seem to kill the vines, but it does kill those very very tender shoots that have the individual leaves on the summer squash. If it does anything worse than that, I want to find out before anybody else gets their hands on it. Because if I lose all my summer squash, I'm not gonna starve. I have more seeds. I can plant more. But I would hate to deliver that disappointment to somebody saying, "Here, this will protect your plants from the vine borers," and then they wind up losing plants because it burned them, chemical burned them, and it may have had something to do with uh, heat and other things like that too. All right. Oh, yeah, guys are still talking. I'm catching up in the chat where you guys were talking about the blue trap incident with the big cat. There's Faith K saying hello. All right, let me pull it all the way down to the bottom here. Catch up with everybody. Okay. Um, yeah, the lamp over here next to my desk that I hate. Okay, it's got a light that's over here to the side, and whenever I turn that light on over there, the glare that it produces makes it impossible to see. It also interrupts with me being able to look out the window here, and it being illuminated right there. People outside at night can see me looking out the window, but being that there's more light inside than outside, I can't see them. I don't like this situation. I have our yard lights set up, particularly with a lot of motion sensors and other things, to trigger when people get close enough to the house that they'll be illuminated and I can see them from inside, as long as it's not super bright in here. So I can have more light out there than in here, which means they don't see me. I see them. That's why I don't like the lights you put over here. All right. Do, 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 do. All right. Oh yeah, Red's talking about currants. Hey, guess what? It's 9 o'clock. You know what that means? I need to put my ducks up. They'll be good for another half hour. The outdoor lights, the the dusk sensor is tripped, and we have our outdoor lights on right now. So they're going to go out there and just enjoy the outdoor lighting and not go into the duck hut like they should be going. And that's fine. That's fine. I'm gonna have to get in there with a flashlight and toss the place before I put them to bed anyway, because this morning there was only 6 eggs. No, I'm a liar. There was not 6 eggs. There was only 5 eggs. There should have been at least six. There's 8 hens laying. There should have been at least 6 eggs. There's only 5, and there was a big lump under the straw in the duck hut. Big lump. And I picked up the eggs that are easy to see. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and there was one over there to the side. Fine. Picked up, put them all in the bucket. It's like, where's the other egg? Oh, well, here's a lump. It must be there. I start moving the straw out of the way to get to the lump. And at this point, I'm glad I don't live in Australia. Because there was a big snake coiled up under that straw where I thought I was going to reach over there and grab an egg. And I'm glad I didn't just reach into the middle of it, because the snake was about 7 foot long. It's not a poisonous snake. It's just a rat snake. He wanted to make me think that he had rattles, though. He just take his tail and go. You don't fool me. I know you're not a rattlesnake. So I got him, coaxed him to leave. He didn't have any fat spots, which doesn't necessarily mean anything. He could have eaten the egg and it crushed it already inside of him. But, well, darn it, poo. We got rat snakes. I don't mind having rat snakes, just not in the duck hut. I don't want them in there. I don't want them eating the eggs. So last night I checked with a flashlight and made sure that those doors were closed enough that no snake could slip through. There's a little tiny bit of a gap there. If you got straw in the track or something, it doesn't close all the way. And that might have been how he got in there if he got in at night. It's also possible he could have got in there during the day a couple of days ago while I was still not getting around well due to that kitty cat bite on the back of my leg, which is almost completely and totally healed now, by the way. So the application of salve did the trick. Killed the infection, pulled it right out, and the wounds healed up very nicely. Had a couple of days where I was a bit feverish, but that, other than not being able to walk around very well. Anyway, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, with regards to what Red is saying, his currants aren't ripe yet. That thumbnail picture had strawberries and blueberries, raspberries and blackberries. They could have been dewberry instead of blackberry. Could have been. And then, of course, it looked like they had a little strip of red currant across the top there. And that's not something that came out of my garden. And Big Kitty is just, oh, he wants food, huh?
It's his evening havercup.
Okay.
So I do get the children fed.
He's so vocal. Wow. He's like, feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me. Of course, that fruit in that basket obviously didn't come out of my garden. This is the kind of thing that you'd find at a supermarket, because all the fruits that were in that little basket, they come ripe at different times. Having a global economy means we can have fruits that come ripe at different times, bring them all together in the same spot, and now we have this little fruit basket that has all of it in there. In reality, if you try to grow your food like the factory farm does, a whole bunch of one thing, then you're going to have too much of one thing. Take, for example, you can't see it. This pear here, right? Now this is an immature one that I pulled off the tree. Right, pulled the immature pear off the tree, and you can't see it. Pull the immature pear off the tree, because if you let these go on the tree for too long and the limbs get too heavy, the limbs break. It can't support the weight of all that fruit. There's just way too much fruit that a Bartlett pear tree produces. One Bartlett pear tree is going to make enough fruit that a family of 4 is going to have all the pears they could possibly eat. I think probably a better way of doing it, and the way we will do it eventually, is for someone to have 3 different varieties of pear, minimum, 2 to 3. 3 is best. Grow one pear tree, and then graft the other 2 varieties onto that one pear tree. So you have 3 different varieties of pear on one tree. That way, whenever somebody gets a pear tree, they don't get a pear tree with one variety of fruit on it. They have a pear tree with 3 varieties, and those 3 different varieties will have different characteristics that cause them to come ripe at different times. So instead of having just a huge load of fruit, all the same type, that's an overload, more than you can handle, you have different types that will come ripe continuously in a series. So the stuff that gets ripe early, you start eating that earlier. And instead of having too much all at once, you have some now, some later, some a little bit later on from the one tree. Of course, the person that's doing the breeding and grafting of the trees has got 3 pear trees that he's got to deal with. That's me. I have to deal with the produce of 3 pear trees. More pears that I'm going to be able to deal with. More pears I can deal with. We're going to make a lot of cider. We're going to make a lot of vinegar. We're going to eat a few pears, definitely. But mainly I'm growing 3 different varieties of pears so I can graft it. And that way, people that buy a pear tree from me will only have to buy 1. And then you can spend the rest of your space on other things, different things. Oh, stone fruit. How about stone fruit? Would you like a peach tree? How about instead of a peach tree? You get a plum tree that has a peach branch. See? Plum tree with a peach branch. You could have a plum tree with 2 cherry branches, one tart, and one sweet. So you have a plum tree. Boom. Okay. 2 varieties of plum on it. Plum tree, main plum tree. Second variety of plum on the same tree that cross-pollinate. Everybody's happy. Then we're going to go ahead and add on one type of cherry, the other type of cherry. We have 4 different fruits off of one tree. And then it's a stone fruit. Why not? Scrap a branch for a peach on there as well. So we have 5 different fruits, one tree. 5 different fruits that are all going to come ripe at different times. So you can spread your harvest out. You can enjoy the fresh fruits of your garden for an extended period of time. 7 months at least, fresh fruit that you can get here in temperate zone 7. And there are some things that even extend that beyond that time period. We're just talking about fruits here, right? The nut trees, those are going to come due close to December, November, December, late, very late. So I harvest those, bring them in, and then I have nuts that I can keep for a year, 2 years at a time. They preserve incredibly well. I have yet to taste serviceberry. I've looked at so many. I tell you what, guys, I've been working off and on building a list for temperate food forests, and just trying to build a list that covers a wide variety of different things in each category. So we have a wide variety of canopy trees, wide variety of understory trees, wide variety of bushes and shrubs. And then we have vines going up through everything. We have a wide variety of herbaceous perennials, wide variety of ground covers, all of this stuff, wide variety of everything. Lots of different species. And I thought about medicinal species, specifically true acacia. True acacia has the ability, in its gum, you harvest the gum from its thorn tree, right? Horrible thorns. Big, nasty thorns. 6-7 inch thorns. The kind that will go right through chainmail, impale the guy wearing it, and he'll fall dead from his horse. And everybody looks around and go, what happened to him? Oh, he rode under the acacia tree. It killed him. That sort of thing. Death to the conquistadors. You're not making it through Oklahoma unscathed. So these are serious thorn trees, but whenever you nick the bark, it produces a gummy resinous sap that you can collect. And whenever it dries, you grind it up. This is gum arabic. Same essential stuff, but you can grow it here in the U.S. with native acacia. You slap that on a wound, very astringent, pulls out infection, foreign bodies, much like your plantain poultice, but specifically it kills staphylococcus. So we're looking at things that topically applied will kill methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus. Not that I'm a doctor or anything, and it could suggest or provide you with medical advice. No, not that. Obviously, this is just anecdotal. Anecdotal. Acacia is good for this. But I looked through my list of trees and that I have for canopy and understory and everything else. And it's like, really, I should have some mention of that. And I realized I do not have acacia listed as one of those. Variety, diversity, so many different things that you can use. And there might be a spot that I could plant an acacia. It wouldn't be here. And because I wasn't really thinking about different terrain other than where I'm at right now, whenever I was writing that list, the acacia didn't come to mind at all. I didn't think about it. Like, oh, shoot. I should have listed acacia. It's very valuable for its medicinal properties alone. Of course, not everybody needs to have an acacia tree. One person with an acacia in an entire county can produce all the necessary acacia gum for medicinal purposes that anybody is going to need. It's not like everybody's got to grow one, right? And there are plenty of other trees that fill similar niches otherwise. Acacia, of course, being nitrogen fixing. It's one of those trees that's capable of forming associations with both ectomycorrhiza and endomycorrhiza, so it can serve as a hub. Only problem is it can serve as a hub in dry, rocky, unforgiving places where nothing else wants to grow. But hey, there you go. I was saying Mustang grapes and Texas persimmons are right around the corner here. Wow. There you go. We don't have grapes yet. I looked over there. Yeah, I saw James Prigione's video they dropped earlier today, and he's like, "Here's the grapes," and then their little tiny baby grapes are all on there. I was like, "Oh, they're adorable." And he's in Zone 7, New Jersey, Garden State. And that was a bug that just crawled across the camera lens. Oh my goodness. The maid's day off. So he's in Jersey. And they have the Atlantic coast nearby, and some of that thermal effect of the water. We're also Zone 7, but our grapes aren't at that stage of development yet by any stretch of the imagination. They've got leaves on, they're growing, but I don't see any fruit yet. They'll be in. Actually, hang on a second. I can tell you exactly when they'll be done. Grapes, they're going to be done from somewhere between July to September. That's when they're going to be done. Hey, look at that. I found a use for that list again. There are grapes are going to be, and this is in Oklahoma, mind you. Where you are, your harvest times are going to vary, right? Grapes are going to be done somewhere between July to September. Peaches, July to August, unfortunately for me. I only have the one peach tree, and I picked all the blooms off of it because I wanted to devote its entire energy to growing and developing root structure on branches this year. I'm not interested in getting the peaches from it. It wants to make fruit. It does. I'm not going to let it for a bit. All right. Good advice right here, incidentally, guys. Press Res, I really suggest people to research the fruit leaf teas. We're all looking for natural sources of vitamins and minerals that have reliable supply chains. Blackberry leaf tea, strawberry leaf tea. I mean, these are all, these leaves are edible and they are very, very nutrient rich. So you may not want to eat the leaves because they're a little bit fibrous and tough, but dry them, use them in a tea, add them as a component to soups and stews, perhaps. The dried leaf is another way to impart additional nutrients in. I seem to recall at one particular time I was making soup dishes and taking cilantro or parsley, dried cilantro and parsley, which has a lot of iron, a lot of vitamin. I think iron and vitamin A mostly, and crumbling that up and throwing in there. It's like we're adding some extra vitamins to the food with those particular leaves. We don't have to have cilantro or parsley to add extra vitamins. You can You can take and harvest your strawberry leaves. Say you've got wild strawberry that grew and is making those little tiny fruits that aren't really all that good. Oh, what a waste. Well, okay, go ahead and let the plant grow for the season. Get rid of all those little tiny, not quite so good fruits so they don't leave the seeds everywhere and start more. But before you tear it out and replace it with a productive strawberry, you can take those leaves, dry them, and put them in a jar and pull them out and throw them in your soup during the middle of the winter as an extra vitamin nutrient boost. So look for places where you can gather micronutrients and add them. No, I can't see outside right now. It's this bright light up here completely and totally prevents me from being able to look out the window and see what's going on outside right now. But I've got a marine light machine gunner patrolling around outside at the moment, so I'm not particularly worried. I'm just reading this. This sounds delicious. So these come ripe. I'm presuming earlier in the season, unlike the American persimmon that we're more familiar with. I guess out east in the hills up here. Um, those we would wait until there's snow on the ground before we harvest them. Fruit goes all the way orange, and then you pop it off, and you eat it. And it does have a custard-like texture, mild sweet flavor at that point. So I guess Texas persimmons being dark and ripening earlier is something different about them. Are they the same genus? Out of curiosity, I've got an Asian persimmon in the front yard that we're growing out. I wish I had more room. Because I'd like to have maybe 2 or 3 different types of persimmon. And I don't really know where I'm going to stick another one. I could try grafting multiple types of persimmon on the same tree. That would be fun. Hey, get one persimmon tree, have like 3 or 4 different types of persimmon. Once again, fruits come ripe at different times, or fruits come ripe at different times. And it could be the same tree with different varieties grafted onto it. That one tree is going to provide you with harvest multiple times throughout the year, extending your harvest from the same tree. All right. Because it says, finish my nursery purchase until at least fall, saving up for the next splurge. Fall is a good time if you're gonna get crocuses. Look for somebody that's selling crocuses and isn't selling them until time for fall planting, because the box stores in spring will sell crocus bulbs. They will. And you might be able to grow some crocuses if you buy the bulbs and plant them in the spring, but most likely not. You're going to lose a lot. So you want to time planting of certain bulbs like the crocuses and daffodils and stuff like that, the narcissus. Narcissus, I think crocus, true lilies, and come on, Jason. Hyacinths, that's the one I was thinking of. Save those for fall planting. They come up in the spring. The flowers come up in the spring, but the bulbs you want to wait until fall before you plant. Now, you have some things you can plant in the spring, get away with. Other things you plant in the fall. A lot of bulbs you plant in the fall. Garlic, for example, is a bulb. You want to plant that one in the fall. All right. Oh, I missed this part. Okay, it was earlier when you were saying that you could take the leaf and use it to make a tea, dry or ferment. It's kind of interesting, this thing about fermenting leaves. I do not have the entire procedure for fermenting leaves for tea committed to memory. I don't. Like, I could describe it. No, I don't think I want to attempt to describe it from memory, because I tell you the wrong thing. But the process that they use to preserve the Camellia sinensis leaf way back in the day, wooden ships with canvas sails, getting tea from the East Indies to England was not an easy or quick process, and it became necessary to preserve the leaves in order to transport them. So the English got a tea that was not at all like what the Chinese were drinking. If you're in China, you were drinking tea, it was green tea. And it's green because that's how it looks whenever it comes off the plant and it's first dried. It's fresh, it's aromatic, it's got all the phenols that you would release from the natural plant material. So it's also has some certain benefits, antioxidant benefits, thermogenic benefits. It makes you burn fat quicker, stuff like that. But in order for it to make the trip and survive, they had to preserve it. And the method for preserving was fermentation. So they had an entire process where they took the leaves when they were first green, and by controlling the amount of moisture and air they're exposed to, that's about as close to describing the process I want to try, because I couldn't give you the specifics without probably messing it up. From the best of my memory, it's exposing that moisture and air content, moisture and air, until you got these black fermented tea leaves that weren't going to spoil on the trip from China to wherever they were going, whether it was England or here in the New World, anywhere. And that's the tea drink that the English grew up drinking. Of course, whenever they passed the habit of drinking tea to everyone else, it's that kind of tea drinking that got passed on. But nowadays, it's a lot easier to transport Camellia sinensis around the world very, very quickly. Methods of packaging and preserving, aside from fermenting the leaf, are now available. So you can keep it fresh. You can keep it in the freezer while you're shipping it. As a matter of fact, I've got probably about 2 kilograms or so of Camellia sinensis packed away in freezers right now to preserve their freshness. And I'll just take them out and brew a tea whenever I want to have some tea. But you can do the same thing with herbal leaf teas and fruiting berry teas as well. I might look into demonstrating that procedure here one of these days. That might be a fun project. So anyway, I may make a video on that. Oh no. Vicky says something decimated the chickens. Everything wants to eat chickens. That's why I got ducks. Doesn't mean they're going to be immune to getting eaten by things. Just they're a little bit bigger. Earlier today, I was shooting a video showing how I got my corn to be as tall as it is at this time of year. 31st of May, last day of May. You heard the saying, chest high by the 4th of July. I'm sorry, I give you away. Knee high by the 4th of July. Well, it's here, and it's the last day of May. It's the end of May. Still a May. Comes up to chin high. That's how high our corn is. How do I get it that high? What's going on here? Is it a mutant variety of corn? No, it's not a mutant variety of corn. It's a very simple, basic, very genetically diverse native corn. Am I using some secret formula of vitamins and minerals or some specially formulated fertilizer that some lab produced? Oh, no. As a matter of fact, it's duck poo. It's duck poo. That's it. Duck poo that I harvest out of our little stock tanks. I fill 15-gallon stock tank up to the second line, which is about 10 gallons worth, and let the ducks have at it. Sometimes I fill it all the way up to the top, but usually it's only because I let the water run and wasn't paying attention. Usually it's up to the second line. 10 plus gallons is fine. Next day comes along, I fill up another tub. Third day comes along, I fill up the third tub. By this time, tub number 1 has been out there with the ducks splashing around and doing what ducks do with it for 3 days. And by 3 days, it has turned green. Of course, it's green because that's how long it's taken for the colonies of bacteria to convert the immediate waste product of the duck into something that can fertilize plants. And the plants that is fertilized are airborne chlorophyll-producing microorganisms, which is one of your 3 basic effective microorganisms that you want to use for natural farming. The others are yeast and lactobacillus, which are already in the soil in abundance. So I take our effective microorganism infused duck water fertilizer, which is now reduced from 10 gallons to 5 gallons. I put it in a bucket. It's a little hot right now, so you don't want to put it on annuals that way. Even on perennials, I'd probably pour it on, then water it in good afterwards. So I take that and divide it up amongst 4 buckets. So I have 4 5-gallon buckets, each one with 2.5 gallons of duck poo and water in it, and algae and whatever else has managed to grow in that 3-day period. Top the buckets off with the rest of the water, so we now have 20 gallons of water. And then I take that out there. I'm describing this entire process. You got to shut the video. Take the water out there to the corn patch and slosh it on there. And 4 buckets, 4 5-gallon buckets is enough for each block of corn to be thoroughly covered. And I was doing some quick math. It's 1 inch of rain per week over that surface area is how many gallons? Well, it's 4 feet across, 20 feet long. It's 800 square feet. 1 inch over 800 square feet is about 7 cubic feet, or 7 1-foot cubes. Sorry, not 7 by 7, but 7 1-foot cubes, 7 cubic feet. 7 cubic feet of water is about 60 gallons or so. So the 4 buckets with 5 gallons each, that's the result of one day's harvest of duck poo. That's 1 20-foot long, 4-foot wide garden bed, completely fertilized, and that's one third of the water that it's going to require for that week. So if it rains, great. If it doesn't rain, then I turn on the sprinklers, take care of it that way. Speaking of sprinklers, I think I left one on outside, so I'm going to have to turn that off whenever we secure for the night. Unless Kimber or Brandon, if you guys are watching the stream, if you guys are out there and haven't already done it, would you mind ever so much just shutting off the valve to the outside sprinkler that's running over there on the north quadrant, because it's watered enough. I forgot entirely about turning that off before I came in. I was like, okay, I'm going to go get this dahlia flower and cut this dahlia flower so I can show you this dahlia and eat this dahlia flower on the show. It's just like lettuce. This one's like lettuce. The dinner plate dahlias, it tastes like dill. It's interesting. All right. Oh, no. Sometimes it doesn't work out, right? I don't know how many trees I've lost. I plant a lot, and they don't all make it. They certainly don't all make it. The Black Pair of Mordor. Look, it is the evil bear. Okay. There we go. Everything eats chickens. That's why everything tastes like chicken. Yeah. No, it's because whenever they making the Matrix, they were some things they just didn't know. They didn't know what chicken tastes like. So everything tastes like chicken. Right? Oh man. Vicky is bragging. Well, yeah, you're in the Ozarks. You got American persimmon growing wild near you because it's the Ozarks. It's where you find them. They grow all over the place. Well, maybe not all over the place, but you should be able to find some. I love those things. They're absolutely delicious. But you have to wait. You have to wait until that fruit is ready to just drop out of the tree before you eat it. Because if you grab an American persimmon and you bite into it before it's completely and totally ready, it can make a and you're going to make funny faces if you're looking at you. What's wrong? You're ruining your stringent. And you're like, yes, it is. Oh, shoot, guys. I'll show it to you the next time. The fruit's not mature yet anyway. I was going to show you the fruit from the flowering quince that we have growing. Vitamin C rich, shade-loving member of the Rosacea family. Really cool plant. Pretty cool flowers, too. They show up fairly early in the spring, and right now the fruit like the Black Pair of Mordor here. The fruit is not ripe, but I could pull off one and show it to you. It's actually A little bit smaller than the black pear of Mordor here, but very, very rich in vitamin C. Happy Gardener is reporting on. Yeah, okay, so this is a concern, right? If you have different varieties of fruit trees that are all grafted onto the same one, because some varieties grow faster and more vigorously than others, you're going to wind up with some things that are going to grow more quickly than others, and so you're going to have to stay on top of it with your pruning, pretty much, like a lot of things. But if you're going to have fruit trees and you're going to keep them to the point where you can have the fruit accessible, most of the time that means you're going to have to prune them every year or close to it. So it's one of those chores you have to do if you want to have fruit that you can eat. Now, we had, growing up on the farm, we had 3 Bartlett pear trees, black pear of Mordor, these guys. Well, for a moment it was green there, right? I'm trying to hold it some way where you can see that it's green. So we had 3 Bartlett pear trees, and the Bartlett pear, it almost showed green for a second. Okay, the Bartlett pear tree produces a lot. It gets to be 60, 70 foot tall. When it's fully mature, spreads out. That's a lot of pears, especially way up there, and they all like to come down and fall and hit the ground and split and make a mess. The bees and the wasps are everywhere, and you have to deal with it because any resource that you don't use becomes pollution. That was Mollison. He was right about that. All right, so imagine this: we're going to have at least 3 pear trees here on this 3rd acre before it's all over and done with, just so I can get those multi-grafts. I don't know what I'm going to do with all those pears. It's tons of pears. It's the pear apocalypse. All right, so here's Joe. Joe is late. Joe, dahlia flower right here. This is kind of close to what was being grown in southern Mexico, like before the Spanish ever got there. And the flowers are edible, right? And of course, the tubers are edible. I think the tubers are probably going to be the star of the show, but flowers aren't bad either. If you got salad dressing, this open-faced dahlia flower doesn't have much of a flavor of its own, so it's like a lettuce. It'll hold your salad dressing and make your salad pop really pretty. But the bigger dinner plate dahlia that I tried, and so far I've only tried one, it had a much more savory flavor, and I could actually see taking those big frilly dinner plate dahlias and drying the blooms and crumbling them up and maybe using them as a seasoning because they have such a distinctive flavor. Very nice dill flavor to them. Anyway. Pigs eat chicken and chickens eat pig, and they don't taste like each other. All right. Carolyn's saying, sell some of those pears. I might, or might make some cider. Can't sell the cider unless you get licensing and all that stuff. What a pain, right? What a pain. You could take those ciders and you could make brandy out of them. You could take these little pears of Mordor. Take the little baby ones, right? And whenever they're first forming, you put the bottle around the pear and tie it off with a ribbon. And then later on, whenever it's bigger than the mouth of the bottle, you can take the bottle and pop it, and you've got a pear inside the bottle. And people look, how did you get the pear inside the bottle? But you still have to thin more, otherwise you lose branches. It's just way too many pears. If we have pigs, we'd feed them to the pigs. We don't have pigs, so I have to make them into compost. Or it worked for me, but otherwise I lose branches. Oh. Sassafras bread, dropping the knowledge on us here. It says acacia from the Middle East has a compound that has DMT in it. I wonder about our native acacia. We have one that will grow in temperate zones as well. Lots of them. Out around Jay, Oklahoma. We went out there one day to visit one of our friends' dad lived out there. So we went out there and had a look, and that's where we came across this grove of acacia trees. Oh boy, lots and lots of them. I took some of the thorns home with me, but they made an impression. They're impressive trees. And yes, acacia sap, the gum from acacia, kills staphylococcus, allegedly. Allegedly. And yes, right now I have two types of pears. We have the Anjou and Bartlett. There's another variety that I can get to graft on there. I haven't got it yet. I don't know if I'm going to get it at this particular property. I might have to wait until we relocate somewhere else before I get. Like I said, there's a lot of different variety out there that I'd like to include. So what do we have? We got cherries right now. We got jujubes. We have two different types of cherries, two different types of jujubes, two different types of plums, one peach. We have two different types of pear, blackberries, blueberries, strawberries, goji berries, Elaeagnus multiflora, or the goumi berry. What am I missing? Raspberries. I got raspberries. We have hazelnuts, pecans, chestnuts. Well, chinkapin, which is like a bush type of chestnut. And those are doing really good, actually, right now. Asparagus. And when we were going to do this when I was thinking about doing this show, and I was getting all the little, here's this vegetable, here's that flower, here's an onion over here, that's a daikon radish, the other stuff that's coming around right now, and being ready to harvest right now. I was thinking about grabbing the can of asparagus, because we have some that's in cans. We'd like to get from the buck and a quarter store, whenever they have them, these little glass jars that have tiny little baby asparagus spears in them. And for canned asparagus, this is about the best I've found for not being woody and tough. But unfortunately, it's canned asparagus, and something horrible happens to asparagus whenever you can it. It just, all the joy leaves it whenever you can asparagus. So it's the only way I can put it. Asparagus fresh is delicious and sweet, and you can taste the vitamins in it, but they're not overpowering and nasty and gross. They're just wonderful. But whenever you can asparagus, all the joy leaves it, and you can still taste the vitamins, but it's just not that beautiful, life-affirming experience that fresh asparagus eating is. And I like it just take the spears, snap it off, and munch it raw because it's so good that way. Why would you want to bother cooking it? You'd spoil it to cook it. Just eat it. So I wasn't able to show you that particular jar, but asparagus is one of those things. It's already past the time for us to be able to harvest fresh asparagus, unfortunately. What is the Latin of the acacia tree? Off the top of my head, I am not recalling, but hang on just a second. No, I'm supposed to be going to PFAFs, Jason. 2% smarter than your equipment. So there's several different types of acacia. But the one that we have here, let me scroll down here and find the grossum. Prairie acacia, Acacia angustissima, from zone 7 to 10. Fast growing, doesn't like shade, doesn't particularly care what kind of soil it's in, does not get incredibly high or incredibly tall, about 5 meters, 15 foot or so. They're relatively small trees. But unfortunately, because they don't like shade, they can't be an understory. We have different types of acacia that appear in other places. Mostly wattle trees. You'll find a lot of these wattle trees in Australia. Those are all acacias. And then we've got which one is our Middle Eastern one? I'm scrolling through a list of about 30 different varieties of acacia at the moment. The one that we have here in Oklahoma is of course prairie acacia. Tops 15, maybe 25 feet. I've seen some of them get a little bit bigger than what PFAF has them listed at. but not by much, not by a whole much at all. But massive thorns these things produce. They're just frightening. Uh, but once again, tracks wildlife, fixes the nitrogen. It's a great pioneer. If you've got a dry, rocky place where nothing else grows, try an acacia. It'll grow there. The gum, of course, is medicinally useful for a number of different things. Allegedly, of course, allegedly, it was an important medicinal species for Native Americans. One of the most important species. I think the Maya ranked it as fourth most important species in the cure of bloody diarrhea, seventh in the treatment of mucoid diarrhea. It has astringent properties, so it stops you up. Cures toothache, rheumatism, skin lesions, inhibits growth of malignant tumors. Is rumored to do so. Also possesses mild antimicrobial effect on Escherichia coli and Staphylococcus aureus. So some of that stuff that you can get as a secondary infection from a hospital and bring home with you, that you don't have an antibiotic that can treat, gum from the acacia tree can treat it. Allegedly. Allegedly. Of course, we can't talk about infections that you get from doctors, right? Let me see here. Going back to challenges with pruning. You say a multiple graft tree might work well in an espalier, horizontal cordon, but standard pruning, they kind of suck. So yeah, whenever I start working on this project, I'm gonna have to think about the way I want these grafted trees to come out. This may influence the type of grafting that I do. But we'll see. Oh, talking about ethnobotanicals there, huh? The cautionary word on ethnobotanicals that allow one to enter into altered states of consciousness. Um, don't become too addicted to the easy path to enlightenment. Otherwise, you have problems internalizing the experience, and you don't get a benefit from it. You might possibly uh, have some sort of recording device whenever you're using it, and then go back and review um, what impressions came to you. Just make sure you vocalize them or write them. It's kind of hard to write under the influence of certain chemicals, but you can still talk. So you may come along and look at the recording and then transcribe and go, okay, is there something useful that I can take from this and then internalize? But a lot of people, whenever they're using ethnobotanicals, don't bother to do that. They're just using them recreationally, and the experience was wasted. Although people might say that a good time is never wasted. I don't know. Some of this stuff, if you use it appropriately, is quite useful, but should possibly be used under the supervision of an experienced shaman or medicine man. Otherwise, you're just partying. So Sassafras had some experience with fermenting this. It said fermenting cherry leaves has a sweet flavor. There are cyanides in the leaf. I wonder. I wonder if it's like the cyanide similar compound that's found in the pit, particularly of stone fruits. In other words, it's enough like cyanide that will kill certain cells, but not all cells, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Oh, me too. I want at least 2 or 3. Just don't have enough room. Don't have enough room. Ken says they put an American persimmon next to the fuyu in the front yard. Fuyu is one that you can eat. You can eat while it's still starchy, and it won't be overly bitter. The American cinnamon, you have to wait. If there's any part that's not full on pumpkin orange and soft by the time you eat it, no, you don't want it. 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 I am pretty sure I've seen some blooming in the spring. Maybe they bloom both times, perhaps. We're talking about the purple ones with the bright orange anthers in them. There's three of them in each one. Here in Oklahoma, I've seen some blooming in the spring as well, so you can get them. You can get them both times, but only plant them in the fall. Only plant them in the fall. Don't plant them in the spring. If you plant them in the fall, it gives them enough time to get the plant established, root system going, and then they go dormant during the winter. Spring comes around, they already have root system established. They burst out and go boom, and they can put on the initial burst of growth. Otherwise, they spent their summer trying to adapt, which is hard on them. Mary is asking about black tea. Black tea, of course, is made by fermentation. Black drink is North American native Yopon holly, and that's prepared by lightly roasting the leaves and then brewing a tea out of them. Natives would also consume a portion of the berries in addition to drinking the tea. The idea there was to have the convulsive out-of-body experience that comes along with Ilex vomitoria, which is the Yopon holly, which is said to be a religious experience. I wouldn't use that recreationally. It doesn't sound fun. Then again, the Sundance doesn't sound fun either. That's another way to achieve an out-of-body experience or an altered state of consciousness that this is just putting your body through extreme duress to the point where you begin to have hallucinations. Not funny, or not fun. So yeah, not funny either. A couple different ways it was done by the Lakota, incidentally. I've got a book, not here in the living room. It's in the bedroom at the moment. I believe the shaman's name was Lame Deer. He was a Lakota medicine man. Described how the traditional Sundance used to be conducted in pretty gruesome detail. Whew. You will most likely see things by the end of that. There are no drugs involved. We'll put it that way. Biography of Lame Deer, if you're interested in that particular book, it's kind of an interesting read. All right, similar to black tea, pick leaf, let wilt. There you go. Crush or roll tenderly, then roll and put in a jar. Weight, cover. There you go. Times may vary. All right. Look for, look at your home and garden centers, landscaping companies. It is an evergreen, so middle of the summer and the middle of the winter is a bad time to plant it, depending upon where you are, depending upon whether you have a long, cool spring or a long, cool fall. Whichever one you have the longest of, that's whenever you should get a Yopon or other evergreen and plant it. We made the error of getting one and having it delivered in the middle of winter, which is fine for everything else. But evergreens, not so much. They don't like being planted in the middle of winter. And it took a while, but eventually ours died off. It would have done them a lot better if we had planted them early in the fall. So Sasra says, I just Googled fermenting blackberry leaf and ran down the rabbit hole. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff in there. I wonder if it changes the flavor. I wonder if it changes the effective ingredients. Spotted horse is 8 foot tall. Your corn is 8 foot tall. My goodness. It jumps up there, don't it? It really jumps up. Let's see. Yeah, it's the leaves that are used for used for the tea. If you're trying to have the ethnobotanical religious experience, then you would want to eat the berries too. Until you purge, which is apparently when you have the altered state of consciousness that goes along with this. Chewy said, "What can I use to fertilize my fig tree? This one's 2 years old, growing in Oregon." Oh, just about any kind of fertilizer you want to use on it, by golly. I mean, I use duck water for everything. Um, I dilute it if it's going on annuals because it's too hot to just go straight on annuals. Um, and then dilute it not quite as much to go on perennials. And I just do a regular rotation. We've got 8 ducks. They make a lot of poo. And once a week or so, maybe once every other week, I'll fertilize the corn. About the same sort of rotation. Eventually, we get back around and I fertilize the first spot again. But everything grows really well. Just dilute it down. Don't put it on full strength. Let's see. There actually is such a thing as too much water for some things, but it's hard to get too much water. Yep, all the trees that didn't make it. Let's see. Out there, let's see. A Bartlett pear didn't make it. We had a redbud didn't make it there. We had alder tree didn't make it there. We had a Szechuan tree that didn't make it there. A Sancho tree that didn't make it there. I think our Chinese mahogany kicked the bucket. It didn't make it. Um, what else did not survive? Quite a few hazelnuts have not made it here. Quite a few, and typically it seems to be gophers come through, chew on the roots, kills the tree. That's usually what seems to happen. Gopher killed the tree by chewing on the roots. Otherwise, they would do okay. We have one that's gotten pretty big. That is probably the one I'll do most of our propagation from. Yeah, many trees died to bring you this information. And yeah, sometimes the information you're getting is what's going to grow well here. Well, what's going to grow well here could vary, and you might have to try a couple of times. And sometimes you don't get such great luck. Um, the best, despite best efforts, not every tree that leaves the nursery is going to wind up surviving. It's just the way it is. Sometimes it's not the nursery's fault either. Sometimes it just doesn't want to grow in that spot, guys. You do things like we did over here in the front yard, plant a bunch of trees, and then finally realize that the reason they're not surviving is because although we dug out a nice hole for them to go into, beyond that hole was so much clay that the roots never got past that point. The clay was just that dense, that thick, that we plant a tree, and then whenever it finally died and I pull it out, if I could get a look at the root structure, the roots are doing this, like it was root bound in a pot, except it's in the hole because it got out to the clay and went, nope, turn around, kept on going down. So until we modify that clay, it's going to be hard to grow a lot of things. Yeah, early in the spring, too much water. Well, Florida is like zone 10, 11, 12, 13, I think 14 close to the Keys. We're in zone 7. Probably not without a greenhouse. Might be able to grow it in the greenhouse, but I don't think outside of the greenhouse. There's some tropical things we can get away with, but not if it's something that requires that it survive the winter in the ground. Because once the winter arrives, all bets are off. Let's see. So up there in Illinois, droughts hitting, mulberry trees starting to drop leaves, maples starting to show stress. We're coming to the end of mulberry season here. I'm not able to gather a whole handful out of each bush anymore. Now it's like 3 or 4 out of each bush. So I have to go all over the place to get a whole handful. So let the birds have them from here on out. Tree prices are going up everywhere. I mean, everywhere. Sooner Plant Farm, where I got that ill-fated black pussy willow a couple years back, they're like double the price on them now. And they're up by Telequap, up on the Illinois River, up by Highway 10. And from what I hear, they keep refrigerators, like big walk-in refrigerators. When they grow the trees out, and then when it's time for them to go dormant, they go dormant, and they take them and they move them into the refrigerators. Summer comes around, they're still in the refrigerator. If they need to get the tree out, they can pull it out of the fridge, and they keep it dormant in the fridge, so that once the tree reaches a certain size, they can put them in the fridge and keep them dormant in the fridge, which is just crazy. But it's also part of the reason why some of the big nursery prices get so insane. Is if you're putting your trees up in the fridge, you have to pay the electricity for that tree to be in the fridge, being kept in dormancy, whether you're selling it or not. That's a lot of overhead and a lot of risk. I don't know if I want to do that. But I guess if you do enough volume and you have enough money spent in SEO and marketing and stuff like that, you can get away with it. But I think I want to keep on doing it the way I'm doing it. It's like let the trees germinate in the ground, except for the ones that I start from cuttings. I am starting mulberries from cuttings because I want to keep that mulberry going. I don't want to give you well, it's a mulberry, but what kind of mulberry? I don't know. We're going to roll the dice to see what you got. Oh, sorry, it's a male. No fruit for you. I'm taking cuttings of the female. So it is a female that produces berries. Produces good berries, very sweet berries. Those I'm growing from cuttings. Silver maple and pecan. It's going to be a pecan tree. It's going to be a silver maple tree. It's going to be what it is. I can sell those as seedlings, not a problem. Black locust, mostly grown from cuttings. We did a lot of root cuttings this year. We're getting a lot of black locust. So if you were looking for a place to get black locust from, I think we're going to put them out at $15 a pop come fall. Whenever they go dormant, we're going to put them out $15 a piece. I might even have like a bundle deal where you can get them at $10 a piece if you get a bundle of like 6 or something. Oh yeah, at that point they have free shipping too. So it's like $60 for your 6 trees, $10 a tree, free shipping. Enjoy. Plant your defensive hedge. It's a great tree for that. It's a great tree all the way around. All right, talking about the Opon holly. The berries will make you throw up, guaranteed. You will throw up if you eat the berries. They are, yeah, they're mildly toxic to the point where you'll have stomach convulsions and barf them out. The idea is you're supposed to brew the tea, drink the tea, eat the berries, wash the berries down with the tea, get too much of the chemicals that are in there, and then whenever you purge, that's whenever you have your existential experience. Yopon holly has caffeine and theobromide in it. Theobromide is the phenol that you find in in chocolate that gives you that euphoric sensation that, oh, it's lovely sensation. So, I mean, there's a lot of that in Yopon Holly as well. So it's kind of like getting a coffee mocha as far as the way that drinking a normal amount would make you feel. If you drink an abnormal amount to the point where you actually have the physical purging reaction to it, I don't know what your experience is going to be, but maybe. Sapodilla tastes like caramelized brown sugar. Oh God, that sounds like it'd be delicious. Black Sapodilla is mildly sweet. Some folks here add sugar and OJ to the black pulp. So that, yeah, probably only in the greenhouse. Um, I could make a zone 10 environment pretty easy with a greenhouse, probably with an auxiliary heater to help us out during the middle of the winter because we get pretty cold. Not for long, but there's a period of time that some tropical plants, if they're out there, unless they're very, very well wrapped up and taken care of, they won't survive the winter. Most figs die back to the roots here. Most. I've got one that might not. Still not entirely certain. It might not every years. We'll put it that way. Some years it may still die back. So I'm not entirely certain if I'm going to propagate and sell that fig tree yet. I'm just going to keep an eye on it. Oh yeah. Joe's saying acacias are relatives to mesquites. They are in the same general family, Fabaceae family. So yeah, they're related. Of course, mesquite you can eat the fruit from it. I'm not sure if you can eat the fruit from an acacia. It may be kind of like the pseudo acacia black locust. You can eat the flower, but no other part of the tree. The flower itself is edible, although hard to get to. There's lots of thorns, and besides, the bees are going to get that. Just gather the honey. Let the bees get the nectar. Get the honey from the bees. Let me see. Dang no acacia trooper. Yeah, they're not going to be easy to locate, but we could take a trip out into the wilderness and grab one. I think maybe. I don't know. You can find just about everything on Etsy, right? At least the seeds, right? there, no, he's someone has acacia medicine for staff, willing to buy or trade. Yeah, as far as having something you can topically just slap onto a wound when you first get it, that will stop staph infection right there. Perfect, right? If you've already got the staph infection, you need something to draw the infection out. That's where you get things like plantain to draw it out. But acacia gum, right from the beginning. You could even have it impregnated into your gauze and have your gauze wrapping with that gum in it, which has been done before a long, long time ago in gladiatorial arenas. It's like, here we go. Stop the bleeding. Wrap it up. There you go, son. This is a gash like this long. You'll live. Absolutely. If I get a hold of some, I will try to get it to you. Although, I believe it's. Didn't we say it was like zone 7? Begin 7. I think 7 to 10. The prairie acacia is. So, yeah, mesquite's got monster thorns as well. Yeah, we get black locusts, and somehow they have reach. We don't know how they managed to do it, but whenever you're walking by, they go. I'm going to cut you. So they make a really great perimeter hedge. Really great perimeter hedge. Nobody wants to come through your perimeter hedge if you got black locust in it. So you have black locust, if you had acacia, maybe some flowering quince, which also has nice little thorns on it. It's a rose bush. Prickly ash would be a good choice to put in there. All different wonderful trees to have planted right along. Goji berry. Goji berry has some pretty stiff little. I got my thumb earlier today when I was working around there. You got some pretty stiff little thorns on them. I was thinking about if they had any fruits on them at all this time of year, they wouldn't be ripe. They'd be like, the pear of Mordor here, right? Not ripe yet, not ready for prime time. But they come on. They're bright red early on, kind of like the goumi berries actually. They're bright red early on, and you think, well, okay, it's bright red. It must be edible. You pick it, you eat it. You can, but the flavor is not quite there yet. It takes some time to develop. Goji berry, if you can wait all the way until frost hits and then pick them and then just dry them as raisins and then use them as a vitamin supplement. If you approach them with the idea that they're a vitamin supplement to begin with, you'll not be disappointed with the flavor. They taste better than a vitamin supplement, but they don't taste as good as very, very tasty fruit. We'll put it that way. They're edible. Probably something that you would want to mix in with other things. Newspress said, I sell a few varieties of butterfly host plants and homestead printables. We actually got, at this point, we now have, we have swamp milkweed. We have butterfly weed, which is the tuberosa, Asclepias tuberosa, with the orange flowers. So swamp milkweed is rosy milkweed with the red flowers. Asclepias tuberosa is butterfly weed with the orange flowers. And we have the Asclepias syriacus, or syriaca, which is the purple milkweed, the regular milkweed. So we have purple, red, and orange flowered milkweed. And no tropical milkweed. So we don't have the tropical milkweed. We just have three varieties. Just three varieties. Like that. Bee balm, of course. Spotted bee balm seeds. Tons of them. Tons and tons of them. Too many tons of them. Mary was trying out some nice IPAs and said, you wanted some of that spotted bee balm, didn't you? Yeah, I ordered 10 of them. And I was like, really? You ordered 10 of them? It's kind of late in the season. They're seeds. We got seeds. I am horrible at starting things from seed. I am a horrible gardener. Horrible. But we'll give it a shot. Sometimes I get lucky. We'll give it a shot. I sprinkled a few out there, and maybe they're going to come up, maybe they aren't. But it was late in the season, so we've got next year. Next year, we'll see if we can get our Monarda punctata. I can't say that properly. Monarda punctata is the spotted bee balm. Let's see if we can get that going. Highest thymol available, and maybe since now we have aquatic stuff going on, little ponds. One of the aquatic plants I can introduce would be Mentha aquatica, or aquatic mint, which actually has more menthol in it than peppermint. True enough. So peppermint may not be our go-to source for menthol anymore. Once we get aquatic mint, we will still want peppermint around, different variety of mint, of course, to go into borders and edges to discourage rodents from digging and burrowing their way in. Now all I have to do is get rid of the ones we already have. Hey, guess what? We got a corn snake. Maybe that's going to eat some of our gophers and not just gorge itself on duck eggs. But I'm going to have to go out there and make sure that it's not in the duck hut right now. And, of course, take care of a few other things because it is, oh, my goodness, 10 o'clock, past 10 o'clock. Oh, my gosh, it's getting late. I'm going to have to go to bed before too awful long, guys. I hope you found today's video at least a little bit informative and possibly entertaining. Remember, plant a diverse quantity of different things. I never did get around to discussing living with livestock and how it relates. Maybe some other time we'll get back to that. But once again, different types of things can also include the livestock that you're raising on your property. Watch your stocking densities. Make sure your livestock has enough space that they could, in theory at least, graze for what they need on the property you have. So don't intensively put your livestock on. And since the grazing habits of different animals are different, you can do fun things like graze your goats on a space for a little while until they eat the top 2 or 3 inches of everything, and then move them on. A couple weeks later, bring the sheep into the same space. They'll eat everything down closer to the ground because that's the way the sheep like to graze. Move them on. A couple weeks later, bring your poultry in, and they're going to come in and eat up all the bugs that have gotten started, and do a little bit of picking and browsing too. So they're going to be the pest control that comes in as the third wave, right? So by having fewer of each animal, you can have more types of animals, a more diverse array of different things that are working in your ecosystem, providing you with different harvests at different times, and of course, making it to the point where you can go, hey, I'm hungry. Is there something around here I can eat? Why, yes, there is. Go outside. There it is. Want food? Food's there. Get food. Eat food. There you go. Very simple. And if we can do most of our gardening that way, instead of growing all of one thing and then trying to preserve it all and then being stuck eating preserved food for the rest of the year, diversify. Have your fruits come ripe at different times because you have diversified fruits, diversified vegetables, nuts, berries, livestock even, and this allows you to have this continuous inflow of different things in different seasons. That's all I got for you tonight, good people. As always, I hope you found the video informative or entertaining. If you did, you know what to do. I will catch you next time. But until then, by golly, get out there and get growing. And I will see you next time. And I'm just scrolling through some more comments to get to. I'm sorry I can't get to all of them tonight, but we'll maybe catch up with a few things that are mentioned here next time around. Vicky just wanted to say, as we sign off, yeah, it's astonishing how many aquatic plants are edible, useful, or both. Don't forget to put surface water into your gardens. Oh, by golly, yeah, I'm not going to sign off this yet. Saw James Prigioni's video earlier today. He was talking about having to put nets over his peas. Can you believe this? To keep the birds from eating his peas. And I recall he was painting his strawberries red, or not painting strawberries. He was painting stones red and putting those by his strawberries to stop the birds from coming around and picking at his strawberries and eating them. And I hadn't mentioned it to him before, but so I was like, oh, yeah, I know what the problem is. Put surface water out there for the birds. The birds are thirsty. The birds are thirsty. That's why they're eating your peas. That's why they're eating your strawberries. That's why they're eating your peas. They're thirsty. Most of the time, they don't want to eat that stuff, but if they're thirsty, they're going to get water anywhere they can, and that means they're going to get water from your fruits. So there we go. Having that water, of course, gives you access to those aquatic plants, which are very useful to us, and it also helps in a number of different ways attract the wildlife to your property. Attracts the lizards. And lizards eat a lot of bugs. Attracts the amphibians, the frogs and the toads. Those eat a lot of bugs. They don't damage your plants. They only prey on your insect pests. They go around and they eat your pests. And you have surface water, which means you get the birds coming in. Surface water takes care of those. They're not going to be busy eating your fruits because they get enough water, right? You have surface water. They have enough water. They have excess water. They don't need to eat your fruits. This gives you the breeding area for your amphibians. It gives you water access for your reptiles that you might want to have to deal with certain problems. For example, gophers, rat snakes. Rat snakes will go in there. They'll eat the gophers. Not a problem. About every 4,000 to 5,000 square feet have some kind of water available. Have a bird feeder and some kind of water. And that may seem excessive, but try to get all quadrants covered with something coming in that's visiting your property, some kind of bird, right? Some kind of bird coming in to visit your property. They come in, they say, okay, I've got food here, I've got water here, there's trees here, there's shelter here. We can live in this area. And if they're going to live and operate in this area, that means they're going to be hunting bugs in your area and feeding those to your young or to their young. You get enough of these things going and you don't need to spray chemicals anywhere. As a matter of fact, if you spray chemicals, you would be interfering with the operation. Anyway. Dun, dun, dun. All right. So until next time, we're going to jump down some more rabbit holes. Hopefully, I will be able to investigate the fermenting of berry leaves and other stuff like that. Yes. Lots of fun. I will catch you next time. Until then, get out there